our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia. This is part 4 of the video of the restoration of the 1910 Singer sewing machine, treadle sewing machine, on cabinet. Today we're going to work on painting the cast iron, and what I'll do there is just wipe it down with mineral spirits, take it outside, and we'll paint it with some black Rust-Oleum with a primer in it. And then we're going to come in here and we'll finish up the final top coating and touch-ups on the wood. We'll let everything set overnight. I'll come back in tomorrow. If everything is hard enough, we'll start to reassemble this piece and we'll get it out of here. So stick with us. We're almost done. And here's a little update from the morning so far. We've got the fronts and the backs of these metal pieces painted. Anytime, in my experience, you paint a dark color over a dark color, you're bound to miss a spot. So what I like to do is, after this dries, I'll pick each one of these pieces up and look at it and have the paint gun in my other hand. See a spot, I shoot it. I see a spot, I shoot it before I put it away. But in general, these are looking good. They're drying well, getting good and hard. So we're well on our way here. Let's go take a look inside and see how we're doing on our wooden pieces. I put the final top coats on the 3 top pieces, and there's the top, the part that folds up and down as you pull the machine out, and here's the top that we replaced the veneer on, and it's a really good color match compared to where we were before, so I'm really happy with that. These pieces here don't need to be recoated. They're in good shape. The drawers are in good shape. I've got those down on the ground. So we're doing great. All we got to do now is just go take a break while everything dries up and take a look and see if anything needs to be touched up. And then we'll knock off for the day, let everything get hard overnight, and work on reassembly tomorrow. And this is the spring assembly that we took off last. Just remember, this helps the collapses when the sewing machine goes in. Now, if you look at it, you see it's really just pretty dirty. I'll flip the other side over. This is the side that's going to show the paint's intact. We'll see how that cleans up. But what I'm going to do is just use some crud cutter, some rags, and a toothbrush. And look at all the dust in here. And just get this cleaned up. So, here we go. Okay, there you go. There's nothing wrong with putting that back on there just the way it is. Put a little bit of oil on the hinge, and she's ready to go. So we're just going to lather, rinse, and repeat, and when I get to some of the hinges that are really badly discolored or stained, I'll bring you back. You can see that rusty screw head right there, and I've got a brass wire brush in my grinder. Usually when I paint screws or I paint hardware, what I like to do is just run it through a cardboard box and then use that to hold it. So all I'm going to do is just spray some black paint on the heads of these screws. They've all been run through through the wire wheel, so all the rust is loose. This one shined up a little bit better than these, but that's fine. So we're going to shoot these with some paint. I'll show you how I do it. And with the screws mounted in the box, just take a rattle can, shake it up, and we're just going to mist a coat of black on there. That's all for cosmetic purposes. Do yourself a favor and run those screws far enough in that you get the threads in the box. That way you don't have to chase the threads. You don't get dried paint on them. And these are the dog mounts that mount the sewing machine to the cabinet. And as you can see, I mean, although they're mostly black, it appears that the original finish may have been copper, and this may be tarnished. So I'm going to see if I can get this black off. I may be wrong. This may have been plated, and this may be the copper underplating. But I'm going to see if I can get the black off. If I can, I think it would look really nice if these were shiny copper. So let me just take a few minutes and see what I can do with these. And if I can't, or if in fact this black is where the copper's worn off, then they'll just wire brush it and paint it. Well, how about that? That's the one on the left that we just polished up, and the one on the right is still as we pulled it off the machine. They appear to be, they're possibly brass or brass plated. I'm not going to really abrade them too much for fear of working through the plating, if that's plating, but it feels like it might be solid brass. And I think it looks great. There's a couple little spots here that are deep down in some corrosion pits. I'm not going to try to get to them. I've been using steel wool and a little machine oil, and then also some 400 grit fine sandpaper as well, and then I'll polish it back. The very last thing I'll do is polish it with some steel wool. But this looks great. We're going to spray a light coat of lacquer on these to protect this finish, and I think it's going to look beautiful installed in the machine. So there's kind of a pleasant surprise. We're keeping going now. Let's take a look at this before we get started. This is pretty pitted, and it's really just very, very dirty. I'm not going to do any kind of a mechanical restoration on this because she's not going to use it. But all I'm going to do is spend some time and clean it up. I mean, this, you can't even see what color that service plate is. And if you can see here, there's just caked on dust and dirt all over this. So we're just going to give it a good scrubbing and see what needs to be done when the dirt layer comes off. So stick with us. Well, here she is after about a half hour of elbow grease. I used crud cutter, I used some WD-40 on the internal parts, I used some Brasso to polish off some of the metal parts, mineral spirits, some acetone, because a lot of the dirt was held on with sewing machine oil that they've used over the years, and we'll go through the pieces now. This piece here was corroded. That all came off with oil and steel wool. Looks great. The decals are all still intact. If you remember, you couldn't even see what that said. I used a little Brasso and steel wool on that and this here, and they came up a treat. And again, I don't want this too bright because it will look like it doesn't belong. If you come down to the bed, that's all cleaned off. The decals were preserved. This polished up nicely. This polished up nicely. Let's swing around to the front. If you remember, we had this was just completely filthy. I got that off. We have some corrosion. Well, that's a different piece, I think. But this is, you can see how this is all worn down. I guess this is where the thread winds through, and there must be some reason for their hands to be up here manipulating this. But this is all worn, which is kind of cool. And so this cleaned up a treat. That looks great. Swing it around some more. I got most of the corrosion off this handle. I could probably put a buffing pad on a power tool and buzz this off, but I don't want to go through the plating. This is what raises and lowers the presser foot on the machine. This is great. This is the piece here that was just in horrible, horrible shape. I was able to get most of the dirt and some of the corrosion off, but you can see we've got corrosion that went right through the chrome plating. This is just a piece of thin pressed pot metal, so I'm not going to scrub this. It would just take everything off. The solution to this, if someone wanted this to look perfect, would be to clean it and spray paint it with a silver paint, but we're just going to leave it the way it is. This piece cleaned up fairly well. Again, corrosion got the best of this little screw. This is a plate that accesses the mechanism inside. This, and I think there's one more, allow you to oil this machine, plus there's oil holes in the top. And let's go over here to the wheel. Remember, the wheel was completely pitted and awful. That came off with some steel wool and Brasso. I took this little wheel off and polished this up with steel wool and Brasso. And then after cleaning the entire machine, I wiped it down with a little bit of my favorite Feed and Wax by Howard's. It's beeswax and orange polish, and it gave it just enough of a shine that it looks beautiful. Now, one of the things I'm a little confused about, and this is full disclosure here. Remember, we talked about that being a G in the serial number. I think it might be a C, and the reason I'm saying that, and we call this a clue, there's a patent date here of 1911, and obviously if this was built in 1910, that patent date wouldn't be there unless this is a replacement piece. So if I think about it, I'll look up this prefix C. It's really, really stylized, and it really does look like a G, but it very well may be a C. Or it may be a G, and that may be a replacement piece. But there we go. I'm happy with how that cleaned up. That's all I'm doing to it. I did, when I had a plate off, I'd clean out the inside. There was lint inside, and I would lubricate the mechanical parts just because I was in there. But I didn't make any effort to mechanically restore this. Again, this is a cosmetic restoration. So believe it or not, we are about ready to put this baby back together. realize I put the machine in here and I didn't have the camera on. It's my fault. I actually had my wife help me with it. Just as it came off, what you have to do is get the machine into the dogs. And the best way to do that is to flip the dogs up and just put a rubber band around them. That'll hold them up. Then just lower the machine onto the dogs. When it drops all the way down, tighten up your set screws and you're all set. So she is in, and all I've got to do yet is now is put the lid on, and she's done. And here's her big reveal. We only have one thing to do, and that's replace that missing rear wheel. I have that ordered and it's on its way to me. I should have it by the end of the week, and then I'll just throw it on. But there it is. This was nearly 30 hours in shop time, and we started this I think on Tuesday. It's now Sunday, so we work Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get this piece done. A lot of veneer work, a lot of tedious disassembly and finish work and stopping to get pieces, you know, dry before we could flip them over. The part that I was concerned about the most was actually wire brushing off the steel, the cast iron, but the wire brush cup that I got and the Makita grinder did an outstanding job on it, and that was only really an hour's worth of work. And here's the lid. It opens up, lays down flat. There's your hinges, nice and painted. Here's our beautiful brass dogs for putting the machine on. There's the machine. Up she comes just like she's supposed to. There we are. She's been cleaned up. That wheel has been polished. That's been polished. It looks great. It looks really, really nice. When I refinish antiques, I like to keep them so they don't look like they're completely restored. I think over restoring an antique is a mistake. I talked a little bit about this when I was talking about gloss polyurethane. This piece looks like it is still old, but has been well loved and well cared for. There's still signs of wear. I left little signs of wear, like this veneer repair here. That was original to the piece, or at least original before I got it. I left that, but I finished it into it. You know, little dings like these that we left behind all contribute to give it a look like it's in fact 106 years old. And oh, by the way, I looked this up. If it's a G, it's 1910, late 1910, and if it's a C, it was made in a Singer plant in Germany, and the Nazis took over the plant during the war and they lost all the records. So I have no idea. It's either a 1910 that has a replacement piece right here, or it's made in Germany and we don't know what year it is. But to me it looks, you know, 1910, 1920. It's got that look to me. All right, well listen, this has been a great project. Thanks for sticking with me on this. I'm going to do some before and after photographs at the end of the video for you, so you can see where we came from with this project. But with no small sense of pride from our shop just outside of Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Thanks for watching. Best regards. Take care.